What up? It's Luke for Prez, back in the mix with another video for you guys. And today we are joined by an absolute legend in the online beat selling community. It is none other than DJ Pain One. He is a co-founder of the Music Entrepreneur Club. He has a very successful YouTube channel where he promotes his own beats and amazing content for the producer community in a similar vein to the content that I have put out, and just an overall inspiration. DJ Pain One, thank you so much for joining me. How you doing today?
I'm good. I'm thrown off by the use of the L word, but I'm good, man.
I appreciate it, man. But like honestly, I've been making beats now since about 2016. And when I finally decided to take that plunge, the first place I went to was YouTube just to do a little research, just dip my toe in the water, so to speak. And you were one of the first people that I found, and I have been a fan ever since. And you really have been a key figure in just my journey up until this point. So I don't throw the L word around lightly. I really, I really do mean it. So it means a lot to be joined by you today, brother.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's funny to hear someone tell me how influential I am, or even use the L word, which I would never use to describe myself. I'm like, I need to mop the floors today. I gotta, rake leaves and stuff. It's not legendary behavior, anyway.
And he's modest. That's fire. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that my modest following is already familiar with who you are in the space. But I recently interviewed Gabe from Legion Beats. We have a good relationship. I was actually featured in the digital book that he just released, which I believe you were as well. The Beat Traffic Blueprint. I think you had a
Yep.
chapter in there as well. Yeah. So I was in that. So Gabe and I have a good relationship. He's been very influential to me as well, and he graciously accepted my invitation to come on the channel, and that sort of sparked my interest in speaking with some of the thought leaders in the space, and creating some content together, and just kind of picking the brains of people that have been more successful in this space. And so having watched a ton of your content and continue to do so to this day, there's questions that I've had that have come up that I've always wished I could ask you, and now I kind of can. So it's a dope moment for me. Just like right off the bat, I know that you've had a history, and I think when you started, you were chasing the placements, and that was kind of the primary focus, and you had some fantastic success in that world. And then over time, you transitioned at least some of your time to the online beat selling space. I'm wondering now in 2020, going into 2021 here shortly, thank God that we almost reached the end of this year, how your time is currently divided between the online beat selling space and the placement space, because I know you have had some recent placements as well. So yeah, just in terms of like your time management on a day-to-day level, like where your focus is at, I'm curious about.
Number one, I have terrible time management and my life is chaotic. But number two, I wouldn't say that my time is split between chasing placements and selling beats online. I'd look at it all as just brand building. So when I was, quote, chasing placements, unquote, that was more me trying to appeal to artists and A&Rs and managers. And now my focus has shifted not just to licensing beats online, but just to building up my brand and working independently and making sure that I'm sustainable on my own 2 feet, not dependent on label checks. So yeah, I think initially it did feel like I was transitioning from one world to the other, but really I was just stepping up my branding because I think ironically I was scared of the online beat licensing world for so long because I wanted to kind of preserve my catalog for placements, right? Which was absolutely silly. And now that I'm just saying, forget that, I'm putting my beats out for the world to hear and either accept or reject, I've actually gotten probably more placements than more, yeah, I would say as many, if not more, than I was getting when that was my sole focus. So I think that's the ironic part. And ironic based on my mentality, not based on how things work. I think if I had better perspective on how the industry operated and where it was going and the trajectory of online beat selling, I could have predicted an Old Town Road, and I could have predicted that, these artists getting beats from the internet would become the capital I industry rappers. Polo G's got my beats off of YouTube. So there's no delineation between those two worlds. And so it's just that the stronger my brand is, the more content is coming, the more quality content I'm releasing, and the more people with whom that content is resonating, the more chance I have at success, period. Whether the success is licensing a lot of beats or placements or building relationships with the right people across the board, the more branding I do, the more concerted effort I make towards investing in my own brand and my own sound, the better the outcomes.
Right, right. That's a really interesting kind of lack of distinction there that you're making, and I think a really insightful one where in today's world those lines between internet producer and industry producer are really non-existent, it seems.
Yeah.
Which is good, and I think it's a good evolution, going forward. Having said that, I know you post very often on YouTube, on Beatstars and everything. Do you make any time? I mean, I'm sure at this point you have a number of industry connections in terms of A&Rs, potentially rappers directly, their managers,
You'd be
whoever.
surprised.
Well, do you spend any time on a consistent basis doing any type of reach out or, like something that I've experimented with lately as someone that doesn't have any placements and, with bigger artists, is, I've compiled a list of industry contacts, and I will, on a schedule, periodically send out my latest beats, just like in cold emails. Just a tactic that I've experimented with. Do you have any component to your like marketing plan that includes something like that, or do you just kind of brand yourself as best you can, put yourself out there in all these places, and just sort of let them come to you because you've built such an established brand already?
Neither. I think for me now my focus is branding internally and then branding and networking horizontally, which is basically me collaborating with peers and not necessarily looking towards the industry guys. Like there might be an A&R over here. I could flood her inbox with beats, but that's never worked for me. I could try to beg this manager to let me send beats to his or her artist. Yeah, I could. I would rather at this point just make music and network horizontally with people who are co-producers, writers, songwriters, just people who are working creatively and who have just as much as a shot as I do, maybe even more, working with an artist or someone who ends up either placing something or becoming a artist with a following themselves. And so Nah, I'm not really. I'm not. And honestly, I don't know how people are getting placements these days. I don't know if it's changed much. I know when I first started, I was literally walking into the labels, and I certainly don't want to downplay the role of A&Rs in placing beats. I think now more than ever, though, the A&Rs are just kind of, they either have their teams, or when they pick up new talent, whoever's around that new talent, that's who gets brought in. It's not like they're just sitting there at their computers waiting for some random producer to send them new beats. I could be wrong. I just don't think that's how that works. I don't think they're waiting to give a producer a shot if they already have a team of producers that maybe are signed to them, or that they already trust, and they've been working with for some time. They have a rapport with. But yeah, I mean, there were A&Rs back then that I was developing good relationships, like Dre McKenzie, who was at G Unit for a period, or God, what was my? There were a lot. I'm forgetting names. This was a long time ago, but what is his name? Damn, Eric. Oh man, this is bad. Let me pretend that didn't happen. Yeah, but there were A&Rs that I had relationships with that, I would consistently try to work with, and some of them panned out. I'd say most of them didn't, and so for me, it's more just a matter of trying to make good music with the right people, and the right people being the people who have the talent and the drive. Some if you're working with people who have talent and drive, something's going to happen. It might not be a Drake placement, but something. And I'm just I'm happy with the small successes. I'm happy with the large successes. As long as the the the, the mission is moving forward, then that's really all you can hope for.
Right, right. Yeah. I mean, it definitely sounds like the passion for the music is kind of the overarching driving force behind everything that you do. And I think that that is very important to highlight because, I mean, I find myself getting really caught up sometimes in the marketing side of things, trying to drive sales to the website. And it's important, and I do to a degree have a passion for that side of things, but um my ideal life would be just being able to make beats all day 24/7, not have to worry about any of that other stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously it's not it's not a realistic proposition. It's not a formula for success, maybe in the music industry long term, but I think that it has to be the primary driver of your day to day
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
you to have
Absolutely.
a yeah. And so it's very interesting to hear you say that it seems as though you just want to make the best music you possibly can, work hard, and things will inevitably fall into place over the long term if that is your focus. And
Yeah,
I
because if
think
your
that's
focus is just money, then money is informing your creative process. Your creative process isn't generating the money, and I feel like the creative process should control your income, because you're
right.
making good content that people want and they're paying you for it, not you want money and you're just using the content as a means to getting that money. That people are going to recognize that, because
Right.
you're basing your creativity on what you think the consumer wants, and it's not a creative exchange. It's something else, and that might work for some people, but if you're if it this is, and I hear from producers all the time who are frustrated, saying, well, the only reason I'm not selling a bunch of beats is because I'm not making trendy beats. I'm not making beats that sound like what every rapper wants right now. You don't know what rappers want right now. Yeah, a lot of rappers might want beats that are guitar based that sound like something that Little Baby would be on, but I don't make that kind of stuff, and I'm making a living doing this. And there are a lot of people out there, a lot of producers who don't make that sound. Urban Nerd, Yondo, Othello, Dream Life. You can just keep naming them. They're not making, trendy beats, and they're doing just fine. So, do you want
Right.
to jump into that super, super saturated space? And I said saturated, not oversaturated. I don't believe in oversaturation when it comes to music, but it's a lot more competitive, and I think a lot of producers just psych themselves out before they even experience the reality that they're so scared of. I think fantasy is a lot scarier than reality when it comes to a music career.
Right. Yeah, 100%. I mean, dude, it took me like 2 years plus to start uploading to YouTube after I started producing. I mean, it
Why?
took me
Because you were
almost that
nervous
long
about
to.
it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I didn't think it was good enough, and I think that I think that's a common mistake, really, that up and coming producers make, where they just hang on to stuff because at the end of the day, like it's never going to be perfect to you, most likely. At least for me, that's how it is. Like, you got to let the world judge, and even if your stuff sucks at first, and you get negative feedback, that's so important because then you can internalize that if you take it in a constructive way and make adjustments. And so I encourage everybody to get your stuff out there as quickly as possible, and let the market decide. Like, dude, I started selling beats on my pro page right away, like right after I started doing Google ads, and my beats don't sound anything like that anymore. Like, I think they've improved significantly since then, and I was still selling those. So it's like, you never know, like what you said, you never know what's going to resonate with someone out there. And there's no need to second guess yourself and just basically waste time when you could be generating traction. Like, I wish I started posting to YouTube. I wonder what my subscriber base would be now if I started posting a lot earlier. You know what I mean?
No, me
So
too. I hate thinking that. But I think what's funny too is there are a lot of people who don't want to put their stuff like you. They don't want to put their stuff out there because they don't think it's good enough. There are other people out there who don't want to put their stuff up because they think it's too good. There are people out there who
yeah,
don't want to put
right,
their
right.
stuff up because they think it's going to get stolen. They think it's going to get copied, or they think that the game, the online space is oversaturated, so it's pointless. There are just so many different excuses that we make for ourselves to prevent us from trying something. So why why put all those roadblocks up in front of ourselves when we could just test it out? And there's no I mean, it's really low risk. It's really
Yeah,
low risk. You know,
yeah,
just upload some beats and then take the next step and figure out SEO, and then take the next step and build more of an infrastructure, and then take the next step and really try to refine your creative process so that it makes more sense for the consumer. I mean, I'm not saying change your style up. I'm saying mix your beats a little better with the vocalist in mind, that kind of thing. I mean, that's not selling out your creativity. That's just being a good producer. That's what producers are supposed to
exactly.
do. They're supposed to make the best music possible. So, you know, it's sad to see, but I think that's the real reason why you have so many um, producers out there and seemingly so few who are standing out, because a lot of it is just producers thinking that the landscape is one way when it's not, and I don't know why they believe that. There are producers out there that will cling to their misconceptions to the death, just to hold themselves back, just to give themselves an excuse not to commit fully. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you truly believe that your style isn't trendy enough to sell, it's not going to sell. If you truly believe that the game is so saturated that you shouldn't even try, yet you're kind of trying, you're going to fail. I
Right.
mean, you're predicting your own failure. If you predict your own failure and focus on your own failure and focus on everything that could prevent you, then yeah, sure, you're right. You win by losing. But every single day and every single beat is a new opportunity to turn that around.
Right, right, absolutely. Um, and one thing I wanted to touch on before we kind of move to a different topic, just sticking to what we were talking about before a little bit with the placements, um, is so you were recently on the latest Rust project, is that right? And go ahead and do your thing over there. No worries.
Yeah, yeah, we were on the last Russ album. Yep.
Very cool. How did that placement in particular come about? I'm just curious.
That's a great story because I it's weird. Um I through Beatstars I met Dream Life, and then Dream Life contacted me one day because he was getting into creating sample libraries, and he needed a guitarist. Well, my best friend plays guitar and had been playing guitar with me for years, and that's memory. He actually played guitar in my first major placement ever. So I said, okay, cool. Here's his email address. Next thing you know, they're working together a bunch. Then at an A3C, another friend from up here named Stack Trace is down there. He's a trained musician, keyboard player. He comes by to the house that we're all staying at, and Dream Life is there too. So he starts playing keys on a bunch of people's beats, and everyone's collaborating. Eventually, it got to the point where it just didn't make sense for me to be working with Dream Life and Dream Life to be working with Memory and Dream Life to be working with Stack. It made the most sense for us to form a collective. So we did. And then we started creating sample libraries and sample replays, and just using our musicianship and our production experience collectively. And we released a library called the Scenic Route, and you know those sounds are, I mean, they sound like songs, but they're meant to be sampled by producers. Russ is a producer. He actually purchased one of those libraries. He purchased the Scenic Route, and rather than chop up what we created and add his own drums to it and manipulate it, pitch it down, he liked it as a song and just recorded to it as is. So it wasn't even him sampling us. It became us producing the whole song because it was
Wow.
100% our composition. Yeah. So I believe we did treat it as a sample clearance situation, which ultimately didn't seem any different from how it would have been treated had it just been us producing a beat for him. But yeah, that's how it happened. And you don't think that kind of thing happens. That's not your typical placement scenario. So it was different. And as I said, I wouldn't have been in that position had I not started taking the online stuff seriously. So ironically, my focus shifts away from placements and I get a placement.
Right. That's fantastic. And I think it really just underscores what I've heard from everybody out there that has had a placement or multiple placements. Each one is totally different. There is no specific roadmap to one. It's just about kind of putting in the work, putting yourself in a position to be successful and being consistent. Those are the only really common threads that I've heard from producers with placements. Everything else, there's like so many other variables and just happenstance that factors in. And the old adage, like, luck is where preparation meets opportunity, I think really kind of fits when you're talking about placements. And so that's a
Yeah.
really, really cool story.
And I think preparation also entails flexibility and being open-minded because, you know, I if I were just hyper focused on a path that I thought I was going to walk down, 10 years ago, you asked me what I'd be doing now. I'm producing songs for artists, not I'm making sample libraries, not I'm making drum kits, not none of that stuff, but I've gotten placements off of doing all that. I've formed really meaningful relationships off of doing all that. So I'm a lot more open now, uh, Mostly because I've seen how being closed-minded and being rigid has hurt me, and I've lost opportunities because of that. You know, like you were saying, what would have happened if you had started uploading to YouTube way back? What if I've been on the internet for as long as I've been making beats? What if I had started putting my beats on the internet in 2000? Where would I be right now? My life
Right.
would be a lot different, and for the better, I think. But my stupid ass waited until like 2015, you know, some ridiculously late. And look, I still am doing it. However, how would it be different? So I had to learn that lesson and not be closed minded about things. Now if something new comes up, I'll try it. If it doesn't work for me, it doesn't work for me. But I'm not going to be inflexible. I want to try, and especially if someone I trust comes to me with an idea or something, I want to explore that, and I want to actually put forth a good faith effort to really give it a chance. Because if you're just rigid, you might not see an opportunity as an opportunity. You might see it as a distraction, or something that's taking you off of your path. But you don't always get to decide your path. Sometimes the path is just the journey that's in front of you, and
Right.
sometimes you just have to walk down that unfamiliar path, and you realize that you actually were meant to do this. You didn't know it, but that was meant for you.
Right. Right. Exactly. So yeah, I mean, I think the big takeaway there is just stay consistent, stay focused, but at the same time, constantly be open to the opportunities that present themselves around you. And, over the long term, I think good things will happen. Um, to kind of switch gears here, another thing I really wanted to pick your brain on is, and I've learned so much from you in this way, and from some of the videos that you've made in collaboration with Beatstars, just in terms of like YouTube SEO and different plugins that you can use, or Chrome extensions, I should say. Like I have TubeBuddy because of you, and use it religiously.
Yeah.
And um, one thing that I noticed that we have in common in terms of our YouTube channels is that we house all of our content under the same channel. So you post a bunch of beats, and you also post a bunch of in front of the camera content. And that is what I'm doing. I have noticed that other producers, two notable examples that have done it this way are Cash Money AP and Cody, two of my favorite producers,
Yep.
where they've split up.
I know where this is going. Yeah.
Yeah. They've split up their content. They have one type beat channel, essentially,
No.
and one tutorial channel, essentially. And I'm just curious as to your thought process, because this is something that I went back and forth on when I started doing the in front of the camera stuff. I don't know how the algorithm, the almighty YouTube algorithm, is going to react to throwing all those different types of videos into the mix under one umbrella, or if it has any impact whatsoever. So I'm curious to know if that's something that you gave any consideration to, if that was a conscious decision to keep everything in the same channel, and why, and just your thoughts on that.
No, I think it was a bad decision. I mean, you named Cody and Cash Money AP. Those are two very successful producers. And in terms of YouTube, it doesn't get much higher level than them. So,
Right.
my channel is nothing compared to their channels. And I'm not saying that if I had just split my channels, I'd be Cash Money AP. He's a lot taller than me. I'll never be Cash Money AP. But the thing is, I think it would have been a lot smarter for me, just knowing what I know about YouTube and the algorithm and SEO and audience. I mean, I've split my audience, and so when I post a beat, I don't necessarily mean that beat to target producers, and when I post a video about selling beats, I don't mean that to target rappers. Yeah, it wasn't a smart decision, and it wasn't one that I thought that much about. But I'm like, 1,000 away from 100,000 subscribers. So I just want to get that damn plaque, and then maybe, who knows? Maybe I'll try something else and start a new channel. As much as I don't want to do that, it might not be a bad idea, especially starting a new year, new keywords. Yeah, I don't know. But to answer your question, no, it wasn't. It wasn't some informed decision that I made. Absolutely not.
Okay. Right, right. Okay. Yeah, I mean, because that's interesting that you say that. I mean, obviously your channel hasn't been a resounding failure by any stretch. You're about across the 100,000 subscriber mark. Like that's a super huge accomplishment that seems unfathomable to me at this point at just over 2,000. But that's an interesting insight. Maybe it's something I need to consider then in terms of splitting up that content before I get any bigger. You
Yeah, I
know,
mean, if you're starting out, you can. I mean, look, when I started finally taking YouTube seriously, I was halfway to 100,000. So it just kind of didn't seem to make that much sense for me to start a new channel at that point. However, I probably should have, because now I'm basically at 100,000. Now I really don't want to. So you're at 2,000. I mean, you can try. You could try to start another channel and slowly transition out of it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it works better to house everything under the same channel, then hey, no loss to you. You tried, it didn't work. But if it is working, great. You picked the right time. You're not too far into the one channel. You're not too invested in that subscriber base, and they're not too invested in your content. They could easily go to the second channel at this point
right.
in time. Easier to migrate 1,000 people than it is to migrate 50,000. And if my audience is split right down the middle, rappers and producers, migrating 50,000 people is a pain in the ass. It's not realistic.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the thing is, even though it's like obviously a significantly smaller number, I've like it's been such a struggle just to get
Yeah.
to 2,000. Like holy shit. Like oh my god. Cuz I, I make the most saturated type of beats probably, right? Like my passion is like trap beats, like the little baby guitar beats that you mentioned, like that
Yeah.
just happens to be what I love making the most, and that just happens to be the most competitive little subgenre for the moment, so it's been a challenge, and really the entire thought process behind starting to make in front of the camera content, which I'm still not comfortable doing. I don't enjoy being in front of the camera. The whole reason that I wanted to do that in the first place was to get my watch time up. My watch time numbers were so pathetic, and the goal was to monetize the channel, and you need a
Yeah.
thousand subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time within a 12-month span to do so. If you didn't know that at home, that's what the requirement is to monetize a channel. So I'm like, I need to start making longer videos. That's just it. Like I need to do that, because these 3-minute beat videos just aren't cutting it at this point. So that was like my goal. You know what I'm saying? And it's something I still haven't quite reached, although we're getting real close, which is exciting. Um, so yeah, that's kind of maybe a good segue to another question that I had for you. Obviously, the wisest course of action for a producer, and basically for anybody who's an entrepreneur, and I consider producers who take it seriously as entrepreneurs 100%. You want to diversify your revenue streams, right? And that can be drum kits, that can be placements, that can be beat leases, that can be whatever partnerships like that you have, like with Beatstars and Music Entrepreneurship Club and all this awesome stuff. Um, and I'm wondering, just because I hope to achieve 100,000 subscribers one day plus, right? And have a channel or channels that reach that level of success and beyond. Does so I assume with those numbers that your channel is monetized. Does the YouTube ad revenue that you get represent a sizable or significant portion of your monthly revenue at this point overall?
Define sizable.
That's a good question. You're right, because I guess that could mean different things to different people. But um, like, let's put it this way: could that be like, let's say you had nothing else going on, right?
Oh
Could
no,
you live
I'd
off
be
of it? Yeah.
no, I'd be in trouble.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say it's about 10%. So
Okay.
it's low. It's low. I've had a couple videos go viral and hit that million mark, but not many. And for me, I'm more excited about hitting the million mark because that means if it's on a beat video, that means a lot of people are going to my Beatstars, and that beat is probably going to sell well. And it did. It was actually number one for 2 days on the whole Beatstars. I never thought that would happen. No, number one beat on the entire Beatstars charts. And
Wow.
I did that with this beat called Aspire that just hit a million, I think last week or maybe no, it was this week. Yeah, this week. So shout out to Dream Life and Dirt Boy because they're the co-producers of that track with me, and that beat took off. I don't know why, other than just it's a good beat, and yeah, it was my top selling beat. So YouTube still in 2020 does really help with sales. But YouTube revenue, I'm sure it increased quite a bit. It did. But it's still such a small portion of what I make. I mean, that's another kind of source of pride that I have, that I'm not making money as a marketing guy. I'm not making money as a YouTube personality. I'm still fully uh, sustaining off of music. It's music. Music is the core of everything I do. And I never set out to be a YouTube personality. I never set, and no disrespect to anybody who did. I'm just happy that it's still music for me, because that's
Right.
what I love. Some people love marketing. Some people could sell anything. That
Right.
it doesn't matter what it is. Me, it has to be music. I can't be a
Right.
salesperson if it's not music. That's how
Right.
my brain works. And I couldn't just be a YouTube personality if music weren't the focus of it. It certainly wouldn't be my primary focus, if that were the case. Even if it started even if suddenly my podcast became popular, I'd still look at that as a less significant thing to making music.
Right. I feel the exact same way. Like I literally could have said that. You know, everything is supplementary to the music for me. And I have never been able to throw myself into something as completely as the music. And that's how I know that I'm on the right path, even on like shitty days where,
Yeah.
I'm not getting sales, or I post a video I think is going to do really well and then it doesn't, you know, like
I saw
it
that
doesn't matter.
happen.
I can shake. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, it's so much easier to shake it off when you have that passion. I really think I can't overstate that element to it. Um, but to stay with marketing for a second, because that is sort of my focus in terms of my in front of the camera stuff, and because I don't have a big YouTube following or big social media following in general, to get sales, I have had to rely almost exclusively on paid ads to get people to my pro page and now to my custom website that I recently completed. And now I'm using the Blaze Pro player through BeatStars still. So I've had to learn Google ads, Facebook ads, YouTube ads, which I guess is part of Google. But in any case, I've had to essentially become an expert on these platforms in order to see any type of success so far, because I'm still growing those social media platform followings that could result in more organic sales, right? So I'm wondering with you, I see your ads on Instagram regularly, the carousel ads, which look fantastic, and I've modeled some of my ads after what I've seen you do to a degree. Um, I'm wondering, like, what percent of your sales come from those ads? Have you seen success with Facebook ads and Instagram ads. That's something that I've really struggled with in terms of getting them to be profitable, especially with cold traffic. I've had great success with retargeting ads with Facebook and Instagram, not with cold traffic. I'm wondering if you've had a similar experience, or just where those ads fit within your overall sales, essentially.
Cold traffic is rough. My ads perform well. If they don't, I just kill them. But I spend a couple weeks monitoring them just to see what the conversions are looking like. But for me now, nothing's cold, just because I have customer data. So every time I sell a beat, that's one more bit of super valuable customer data if it's a new person, for me to import into my business manager. And I'm just running off of lookalike audiences. And I found that the longer I do that for, the smarter Facebook gets in targeting potential customers. And so the ad engagement is really high. And I've had more luck doing that than with, say, a YouTube ad. The difference is, though, I don't think you can get as in depth with a YouTube ad. They don't have lookalike audiences. They don't have import customer list options. And so for someone starting out, it seems to me that if you don't have that kind of customer data, you're probably going to find more success on YouTube, just because you can more easily target videos and channels that your customers will most likely be visiting. Whereas on Facebook, you're not targeting channels or anything. You're targeting people. And so it's really difficult to predict who the people are that need to be seeing your ads without data. Fortunately, I have those data, and I have been really meaning to get back into YouTube ads. They just tend to be more expensive and less precise. Which isn't to say they're less effective. You see a lot of producers, like Othello Beats is the king of that, and I'm pretty sure that helps him dominate certain keyword niches to the point where Meek Mill is now rapping over his beats. Wow. So and he was targeting the Meek Mill type beat, and that's what's cool about it. And that further shows you how there's just, and only producers do this, because only producers care about this stuff. But if you see producers talking about the line between the industry and the internet, they don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. That's interesting. Because I looked into this. I wanted to see if like watch time from YouTube ads counted towards like your monetization, and they don't.
Yeah.
And then also I've read that it actually doesn't really impact your organic rankings in the YouTube search results, because then you could kind of finesse the system by just, even if you had like a shitty video, if you spent $1,000 a day boosting it, it would be like at the top of YouTube. So that would like compromise the integrity of the platform or whatever. That's basically kind of what I read. But I think there's
YouTube
definitely
has
still
so much integrity, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. But I think there's still like a lot of value in it, in just building like brand awareness. I've had some experience running YouTube ads. They did not translate into sales directly, but obviously like it did up the subscriber count a little bit. But because I couldn't like actually figure out what my return on investment is, like how much is a subscriber worth, right? Like that's very difficult to quantify, especially like at the beginning. Sure. That is not something that I use at this point as like a main driver of traffic. What is, though, is Google search ads. And I've made several videos on this topic. And some of my most popular videos, obviously my most popular videos, it's still like very modest success, but some of my most popular videos are in me describing how to use Google ads for your beat selling business. And that's far and away the most successful platform that I've experienced, and what I invest the most money in every single day. Have you ever used Google search ads, and have you seen any success with those? Just wondering what your experience is with that.
I have not, um, but I would like to learn.
For sure. Well, feel free to watch my videos, dog. I got some in-depth breakdowns of how the campaigns are set up and whatnot. It's pretty straightforward. It's no
Okay.
no more difficult than Facebook ads. If anything, it might be less difficult.
I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical because if it's anything like the YouTube ads, and it has to be, right? Because it's all AdWords. That was a pain in the
Yeah.
ass. Well,
Really?
the structure. I
Yeah.
don't think the structure of Google Ads is intuitive. In the same way that like with Business Manager, you have the campaign, you have the ad set, and then you have the ad. With
Yeah.
with AdWords, it's this weird convoluted structure where it's like you have I even forget what it's like. It's something like an ad set, but it has different rules, and then you apply them in
Yeah.
different ways to the individual videos, and you have to go through this process where you create each one individually, and then you can't move them around. It's just weird.
Yeah, it is, but the thing is, like, once you figure out how to set it up once, you really don't have to tweak it too much. Like for me at this point, I will monitor the cost per click, which varies per day, and you can adjust like the bids to each individual keyword as needed. I don't really do too much of that, but I will go in once a week and look at the search terms. So what is bringing people to my ads, and what's causing them to click on the ads, and I will filter out things that don't apply to me. You can create a negative keyword list.
Mm.
So like I don't make boom bap beats. I don't make R&B beats. I don't really make drill beats, even though I want to. Like I need to get my 808 glides on point before I hop into that. But in any case, if I see something that doesn't apply to me, I will add it to my negative keyword list, and it's just a way of refining the efficiency of who the ads are serving to,
Okay.
and that's really the only ongoing interaction I need to have with the ads manager. Otherwise, it just kind of runs on autopilot. So something to think about. It's definitely. I mean, like I would not be making thousands a month if it was not for Google Ads. I wouldn't,
Okay.
like, no question. So something to think about. Um, and really, like, that kind of leads me to the final thing I had for you today. And obviously, this is like pure speculation, but because of your close relationship with the team at Beatstars, who, in my opinion, are just at the forefront of the space. They're leaders in the technology side of things, and have done just a fantastic job building a platform that's just perfectly suited for what we do. I'm curious to know where you see the space going. The next 5-10 years down the line. There's been an evolution from basically nobody selling beat leases to SoundClick becoming a thing. Then YouTube became kind of the thing, and now it's YouTube with BeatStars, and there's other platforms that do similar things with BeatStars, but to me, BeatStars is the best. Um, any insights you can provide, maybe things that BeatStars is working on, if you can give any like sneak previews to that, or just more generally, do you have any inclination of what the next wave would be for what we do?
I mean, people ask me that too. I think they think that I'm like a BeatStars insider or something, and I'm at like the staff meetings and the developer meetings. So, and I'm not. So I have no idea. I get the information as soon as anyone else does. But from what I'm seeing, given that, this was a big deal. The BeatStars Sony ATV partnership, because now you're really blurring. I mean, Sony ATV is a huge publisher. Sony Columbia is a label. Um, Sony's a big brand. You're further blurring the lines, and I think this is a step towards a direction of making the link between labels and between major publishers and internet producers, if we can even call them that anymore, a lot more direct. So I don't know if this is going to happen, but it wouldn't surprise me if you started seeing labels changing their models, their ownership models to accommodate beat licensing. And I just want, because labels do. I had a licensing deal with Capitol Records. It was like a record deal, but with a much smaller commitment. And I got my masters back after a certain point. That was with Ted Park. And so I think there's room for that kind of model in the major label space. And I think that's a model that can evolve and be made even more compatible with what is happening on the internet. It's kind of a lower risk, lower reward scenario for the labels, but it might be good for artists to have a smaller commitment to the labels, and then maybe the labels have an option if the record takes off or if the album takes off. Suddenly, it's no longer a license deal. Suddenly, it's an actual record deal. Who knows? I think there are just so many possibilities, and the fact that producers are now super independent and also at the forefront of defining the sound, of setting musical trends, they have a really powerful position in the music business. I don't think they realize it yet, but they do, and it's going to be amazing to see what we as the producer community end up with, 5 years from now, 2 years from now, even things change. I mean, I didn't see the Sony ATV thing coming, and Sony ATV changed their model. They're more transparent. Their payout schedule is different. They're working directly with producers, and that's because they saw what Beatstars was doing, and they saw how powerful that platform was, and they wanted to be a part of it. So, who's next? Who's to say?
Right. That's fantastic insight, and that's great on their part for kind of being pioneers in that way, and I think it will give them a competitive advantage going forward, because now that you say that, I can definitely see other labels following suit, and that makes so much sense for them to start leveraging leases or non-exclusive licenses, because every time they invest in an artist, it's a risk. There's no way to know if that artist is going to pan out for them, and it's interesting. I feel like if that does end up happening and labels start dabbling with licenses, it provides an opportunity for producers to raise the prices of their non-exclusive licenses across the board. That's just my first thought when you said that. So interesting, very interesting, and enlightening as always. That's really all I got for you. Once again, man, thank you so much for taking the time. This is like it's a big deal for me. It really is, because like I said, you've been like very instrumental in just my progress, and you continue to be. And dude, thank you, like for real. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, no problem at all. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, and with that, do the YouTube stuff, like and subscribe, hit the bell for more, all of that I hate asking for. Appreciate it. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.